You are Locked On Mets POSTCAST. Part of Locked On Sports New York on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
A power surge from the New York Mets as they crush the Washington Nationals 10-1. Welcome in to the Locked On Mets postcast. I'm your host, Chris Schubert, with a exciting postcast to bring you here tonight as the New York Mets, with their win, their crushing of the Washington Nationals, move 2 games ahead of the Atlanta Braves for the third and final wild card spot in the National League. And we have a lot to get into tonight. A power surge from this offense, another fantastic start from Tylor Megill, and a performance of the game to remember for one notable rookie on the New York Mets. But today's postcast brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And I will steal the line that Gary mentioned on the broadcast tonight because I had it written down here, ready to go in the book for the postcast. But today's show also brought to you by the letter A. Because if you see there on the side what we're going to talk about on today's show, I did not have enough characters, didn't have enough room to fit everybody in there who performed well for the Mets, but it is Pete Alonso, it is Luisangel Acuna, it is Francisco Alvarez who provide the power for the New York Mets in their 10-1 victory over the Washington Nationals. And that's probably the place to start. The power surge, the offense coming to life after it was a struggle yesterday to get runs across the board, took until extra innings, until the latter stages for the Mets to push the 2 runs across in order for them to win last night. But tonight, a little bit of a different story. They were able to get after it early. A 4-run third inning was the difference. The Mets never turned back after that, and they were able to kind of cruise to a 10-1 victory that had a lot of smiles in that dugout, in that ballpark, and probably with all of you watching at home. And that third inning was the turning point, was the pivotal moment in this game. And we will talk about Tylor Megill's great start here in just a second, but it's important to note that third inning could have gone sideways for this team after a leadoff walk to the number 9 hitter, just not somebody you want to walk in that spot. Washington's been super aggressive on the base paths, and then you get the unfortunate error from Luisangel Acuna. The inning kind of spirals from there, but they only get the 1 run across, and this is where it ties back into the offense that we want to talk about here. Is there was an immediate response, and we haven't been doing these post shows for a while. We haven't been doing these postcasts for a while, but there has been a theme when we have talked about this team in terms of them winning. They dust themselves up when bad things happen. They have an ability to rebound from those lows, and they turn them immediately into highs. Those peaks and valleys throughout the season, they are very quick at turning them around. And tonight, another example of them turning it around. And tonight, the example of no Francisco Lindor, and other guys on this team stepped up, including the guy that was replacing him at shortstop tonight in Luisangel Acuna. And then you see that third inning, that explosion of offense. Acuna immediately responds with a big RBI double, his first extra base hit in the big leagues to tie the game. And I love what that shows about Luisangel Acuna. Makes a mistake in the field after, by the way, playing some great defense early on in his young MLB career. 22-year-old being thrust into the midst of a playoff race, being asked to do a lot, being asked to fill some pretty big shoes in an MVP candidate in Francisco Lindor. And up until tonight, I thought had done a nice job. The at-bats were okay, looked like a young player, still kind of learning, still developing, but the defense was there, showed off the glove. Not gold glove caliber plays, but good enough defense that you felt comfortable with him being out there in key spots. And then he makes the mistake tonight, and you feel bad. And I'm sure you were like me watching this game going, oh, that's so disappointing for a kid that has really put his best foot forward and has really been solid his first couple of days up in the big leagues. He comes home, gets a start for the first time in front of the Citi Field crowd, and he has that bad moment with all the things going on with Francisco Lindor, not knowing when he's going to come back in the lineup. You just hate to put that cloud over that kid. But you know what? Shows his maturity, shows his ability to just let that stuff be in the background, to just allow that stuff to fade because he immediately responds with a big hit. Shows you the kind of skills that the Mets think he has and why he could be a big presence for this team in 2025 and is going to be a presence for this team down the stretch. But he has the big RBI double to immediately respond. And then, listen, in the box score, it's a hit. I don't care what the exit velo was. I don't care what the expected batting average was. When you are struggling the ways some of the players in this Mets lineup are struggling, you take a hit like Pete Alonso's bloop single that allows 2 runs to score to push the Mets in front 3-1. You take those. You do not say anything. You don't care what the exit velo is, and we'll talk about exit velo on a home run that happened a little bit later on in the game, but you take those in, especially when you're struggling, and you use those to fuel you to kind of turn things around. And Pete certainly had a night like that. And what I love most about Pete's night, and we can talk about the blue pit that he had, we can talk about the RBI double, or the double that he had off the wall, the big home run that he had, a 5 RBI night for Pete Alonso, almost matching his career high. I believe it was 6 in a game that he had, and he had an opportunity late when he was up needing just a triple to get to the cycle. We had ducks on the pond, had an opportunity to potentially tie that mark, got called out on a borderline strike 3 call. I think the umpires were looking to potentially get out of there. At least the home plate umpire was, I think, potentially looking to get out of there a little early, considering the lopsided nature of the score. But there was a report that came out a little bit before the game in the New York Post from Joel Sherman talking about a meeting that took place from the New York Mets pregame. Not today, but yesterday, ahead of learning that Francisco Lindor is going to be out for a couple of days. And 3 people spoke: David Stearns, Carlos Mendoza, and there was one player who spoke. And that player was Pete Alonso. And he talked about how he kind of had a playoff atmosphere in 2019 during his rookie season where the Mets made a run late. But 2022, where they actually made the playoffs, didn't have an opportunity to celebrate that because of the poor play down the stretch, blowing the division, and then the quick exit in the playoffs. He didn't get a chance to celebrate that with his teammates. And his message to the team was, I want to celebrate with you. And we all know this could be Pete's last year in New York. He could be moving on to a different team in 2025. And so for him to step up and say that, and he hasn't had, by Pete standards, that great of a year. You look at the home run numbers, he's up to 32 now, and that looks really good. But he has not put this team on his back like we have seen him do in the past. And with reports of that meeting leaking out, and for him to have this kind of night in this kind of spot, or guess what? Players will tell you they weren't scoreboard watching. With the way that building was reacting, everybody was looking up at that scoreboard tonight to see what was going on in Cincinnati with the Reds and the Braves. So for everybody to know what was going on across Major League Baseball tonight, for Pete to have that type of night, finished 3 for 5, 5 RBIs, the home run, to have that kind of night, you tip your cap to Pete Alonso, because you're going to need those types of performances from this offense to pick things up with Francisco Lindor on the shelf for at least the next couple days. Could be as few as 1 more day, could be a couple more days going into that Philly series, maybe even more. And then there's Luisangel Acuna, who gets his first home start at shortstop. We already mentioned the error in the field and then immediately responding with the double. But he ends his day 3 for 4, 2 RBIs, and a home run. And I had just mentioned earlier in the day on Twitter that Luisangel Acuna is not his brother. He's not Ronald. He's not going to be a 40-40 guy. He doesn't have that type of power. Well, he showed you a little bit of that power. He showed you that he's got a little bit of it. Maybe he doesn't have his brother's power to go 30 or 40 home runs, but maybe 10, 15 home runs are in there because his swing looked really good. And you just love the confidence that he seems to be having at the plate. And you love seeing just the swagger that he's playing with. And you feel as though that even though he's a rookie, even though he's only 22 years old, he is bringing some energy to this team that I don't know if they needed, but it is certainly a little bit extra. It's that those sprinkles on top of the cupcake. It is that little extra that I think this team might have needed for this stretch, especially after dealt the blow of the weekend with the 2 losses in Philly and then losing Francisco Lindor for a couple of days. So to have that type of performance from the young kid you call up and put in a pretty tough spot for considering who he's replacing, and he goes out there and in front of the home crowd for the first time making a start, he has that type of performance. And then Francisco Alvarez with a big home run to break things open and make it 5-1, 109 plus on the exit velo, 3 homers in his last 6 games, has 9 homers on the year. 3 of them have come in the last 6 games. So you look at Pete Alonso with a big night. You look at Francisco Alvarez, 3 home runs in his last 6 games. You look at Luisangel Acuna, doesn't look like he's overmatched here at the big league level. I know it is the Washington Nationals, but again, that's going to build confidence for him. So you are starting to see some players in this lineup pick it up. Starlin Marte with 2 hits tonight. Jose Iglesias, I mean, are you kidding me with what this guy has continued to do for this team? Just steady Eddie out there. 3 for 4 tonight in that leadoff spot, hitting .330 on the year. They showed a stat during the broadcast that I did not get a chance to write down in enough time. But all I was able to get down here, and I'm going to read it verbatim from the trusty book here, Iglesias' batting average with 2 outs is insane because it was some stupid number. That like he's hitting like 330 plus. I think it might have even been 360 that he's hitting with 2 outs. And there might have even been the caveat of there was also runners in scoring position. He is just lapping the rest of the league when it comes to those timely hits. And you don't have Francisco Lindor. You need somebody at the top of the lineup that you can trust to get on base. And Jose Iglesias has been that guy. So a great performance tonight from the New York Mets offense. Just everybody that you would expect to come through came through, and you had some guys who were struggling as of late come through, especially in terms of Pete Alonso. It's not all great news. JD Martinez with a tough night. I think he's 0 for his last 23. You just hope that maybe with other guys picking it up, he can maybe take a step back, take a deep breath, relax a little bit. He's a veteran. He's going to come out of this, and he might come out of it at a really important time for this team. So just a fantastic night for this team on offense. But that was not the only fantastic night that this team had, because the guy that took the mound for this team once again had a fantastic performance. So we will get into that here on the other side. PrizePicks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. PrizePicks, the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy so that your lineup stays in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, PrizePicks, your picks are still alive. PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. PrizePicks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out even if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. Let's talk about Tylor Megill, who was great once again for this team. 12 innings over his last 2 starts, I believe, with no earned runs. Did allow 1 tonight, but it was off of the error from Luisangel Acuna, so who doesn't get charged with an earned run. In the final line for Tylor Megill tonight, 6 innings, 2 hits, 1 run, 0 earned, 2 walks, and 4 strikeouts. And what I found to be most enjoyable about Tylor's start tonight is in that 3rd inning, you saw hints of the things that have plagued him in the past, the things that have elevated his pitch count, things that have made his starts not end well, that have made him kind of, maybe you soured on him a little bit when watching him make these starts. Maybe he's not as trustworthy as you would like him to be down the stretch here. Well, what you saw tonight was him have those moments, but fight through to the other side. Because, look, he starts the 3rd inning off where the Nats take the early lead, and you start to feel like, oh no, here we go again. But a leadoff walk to the number 9 hitter, you just can't have that, right? And you're sitting there thinking, these are the types of things that stop Tylor Megill from being great, that stop him from being a trustworthy, reliable member of this rotation. And he does allow the run, even though it was after the error, but he buckles down and he only allows the 1 run. And then his offense immediately gets in the runs back. And then from there, he settled down. He calmed down, had a game plan, and was able to get through 6 innings tonight with an elevated pitch count. He ended up with 94 pitches. I was not sure if he was going to go out for a 6th inning in this game, considering the lopsided nature of the score. And you know that Carlos Mendoza really has to take it easy with these guys, knowing what is going to be asked of them here over the next week and a half, with the importance of these games coming up with the Phillies, the importance of the games next week against the Braves, the Brewers. So you just didn't know how much he was going to push Megill tonight. You just didn't know if he was going to really try to stretch it like he's done the last couple days. He did it with David Peterson on Sunday, maybe did it a little bit with Manaea last night, and he asks Megill to give him 6 innings, and Megill gives him 6 innings. And again, looked absolutely just outstanding. I mean, all of the things that you want to see from Tylor Megill in terms of having his composure, being able to battle, having both his primary and secondary stuff working. He had it tonight. And for a Mets team that is getting the quality pitching night in and night out, it feels like a snowball. It feels like when one guy goes out there and dominates, the next guy that's taking the ball doesn't want to let that guy and the rest of his teammates down, and it just stacks, and it stacks, and it stacks, and it stacks. And that is what you've seen, not just for the last week, not just for the last 2 weeks, but you've seen this since the All-Star break. I mean, this starting pitching rotation has been just nails for this team. Sean Manaea, going to be a Cy Young finalist, more than likely going to get good votes. David Peterson has been a revelation this year. Jose Quintana found himself again in August and has been really good over his last couple of starts. And Megill, who has gone, the ups and downs with him throughout the year, has found himself thrust into a spot in the rotation where he was probably going to be in the bullpen, but Paul Blackburn goes down. He goes in. Kodai Senga's not back. Christian Scott's on the IL. So you have a bunch of moving parts in the rotation, and Megill steps in there, and the last 2 starts has been everything this team has needed him to be. And in September overall, going into tonight's contest with Megill on the mound, the team had like a 2.03 ERA in the month of September. Now, that's 17. We're more than halfway through the month, everybody. We're 17 days in. And with the start tonight, I don't have the fully updated number for you, but it's below 2 now because the run tonight was unearned. So this starting pitching staff has been about as perfect can be in 2024 when it comes to starters. This is not the 80s and 90s and early 2000s where you have guys that are eating innings and going 7-8 innings, and you got guys that are battling out there. You got guys that the moment managers have an opportunity to go out there with a quick hook, they do. Well, this rotation has delivered in a big way, and tonight was no different. And again, for a team that is going to need every single member of this roster right now to step up when asked or when put in a position to do so, they need these guys to step up. And tonight, we talked about the offense in the opening segment and how they stepped up, but it was Tylor Megill tonight who stepped up, because he could have very easily reverted back to what we've seen, the oscillation between all of the things you love from him and why you don't necessarily sell on Tylor Megill, and then those excellent starts or those bad starts where you kind of want to be all the way out. And tonight, he was these are all the things that make us want to buy in. These are all the things that we think if he's able to repeat, he's going to be a really good starting pitcher in the big leagues for the New York Mets. And so, again, we're tipping the cap a lot tonight. We did it to the offense in the first segment, the lineup and what they were able to do. You tip your cap to Megill because he had that linchpin moment. He had that pivotal spot in the game where it could have broken him, where we've seen it break him in the past because his command was all over the place. I mean, he had the leadoff walk to the 9-hitter and kind of lost his command in that inning. We highlighted the error that, led to the inning continuing to allow the run to score. But after the leadoff walk, he had a couple of 3-ball counts in that inning. The command just went awry in the 3rd inning. But he was able to calm down, a nice pitching visit by Jeremy Hefner to kind of calm him down, and they were able to get through that with only 1 run across for Washington. And then just the bats broke out, and that was all she wrote, because the pitching was just outstanding. And then you credit to the bullpen and a nice opportunity for Carlos Mendoza to give the big arms a day off. Doesn't have to use the guys that are going to be used a lot over the next 12 days or so. And you're able to get Ottavino in there for some work. Hasn't pitched in a little bit. Huascar Brazaban, who hasn't pitched, I think it was over a week since he had gone. So you get him in there. Both of those guys looked really good. And then Alex Young shuts the door in the 9th. So again, those are 3 guys that I don't know if you're necessarily going to count on a night in, night out basis here down the stretch. But if you do need them in a pinch in a weird spot, getting them in here to build some confidence, to keep them fresh, that's what a night like tonight provides to you. So you look at it at a night where the Braves lose to the Reds. As we're recording this postcast, you got the Diamondbacks in action with the Rockies. Last I checked, the Rockies were up, but it is Coors Field, so you never know what could happen there. And so I'm going to do something. I'm going to check it here in real time. So the Rockies are still up on the Diamondbacks. So the Mets could end tonight, technically, statistically tied for that second wildcard spot, but they hold the tiebreaker over the Diamondbacks for winning the series. Boy, is what they were able to do in August when they had that road trip out to San Diego and Arizona so pivotal now, potentially late in the season. So the Mets, when their heads hit the pillow tonight, could potentially be the second wildcard team. And just a couple of days ago, it felt like it was doom and gloom, dropping 2 to the Phillies, blowing opportunities, and then Francisco Lindor getting hurt. 48 hours can make a big difference. And that's what happens when you play a team like the Washington Nationals, a team that's eliminated. You got to take advantage of those opportunities. We have the very difficult task. And I'm kind of filibustering here so I can make sure we've got all the stuff we need in order. But we also have to do the very difficult task of figuring out the performance of the game. Now, yesterday I cheated. We gave up performances of the game. A little bit of a spoiler. I think we're going to give performances of the game out tonight. So we will do that here in just a second. You've heard me talk about it before, FanDuel, and there's not a lot of time left, about 5 days or so for you to get involved in this. And you've heard us talk about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook before, but 5 days left now through September 22nd. All FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. You got the Thursday night game coming up here involving a New York team. You got all the action on Sunday and Monday. You've got to get in here and get an opportunity so that you can turn on NFL Sunday Ticket, get all these games, be able to follow your bets, be able to see what you're doing here and see if you're winning or losing. And again, a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. If you bet $5 on FanDuel. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel any time. Again, you've got until September 22nd. That's 5 days from now. All FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. I mentioned the Thursday night football game coming up. That involves the New York Jets taking on the New England Patriots. And so you're going to want to be right here, the Locked On Sports New York YouTube channel, because not only do I cover you here on the Locked On Mets postcast, but I got you covered for the Locked On Jets postcast as well. And then we got Jay Berman covering you on the Giants side of things. So whoever your football team is in New York, we've got you covered here on the Locked On Sports New York YouTube channel. So do us a favor, subscribe, turn on that notification bell so you know that when we go live for these postcasts after each and every game for your favorite New York teams. Okay, I think I filibustered long enough. I tried to think about it, and we're going to cheat. We're going to give out multiple performances of the game. We're going to start with Pete Alonso, because you have a story in the paper get written about you about speaking up. And that's a lot of pressure that he put on himself with the year that he's having, knowing that he is potentially his last homestand as a Met, understanding the magnitude of the moment, to speak in front of his team, to say what he said yesterday, apparently before the game, about wanting to celebrate with his teammates, according to the New York Post. And then to have the walk-off win yesterday, it was Marte, not him, but to then have that story get released, and then he goes out there 3 for 5 RBIs, and has a big home run to break things open. You just, again, you tip the cap to Pete Alonso in a big moment. And there have been questions this year of Pete's numbers and how they've kind of come in these empty spots. They have not been in big opportunities or big moments or big pivotal spots for this team. Well, tonight, this game, it was not in danger, but you wanted that little extra cushion, and Pete Alonso provided it. But he also, with the 1-1 game, had that blue pit, put something in play, make stuff happen, and he's able to drive those 2 runs across that break things open, and then it was all she wrote from there. So you give one of the performances of the game to Pete Alonso. How can you not shout out Luisangel Acuna for the night that he had? Again, rebounding from the error earlier in the game, immediately responding when presented with an opportunity to tie the game with the RBI double, and then the big home run, a 3-hit night for him in his first start in Citi Field, and that's got to feel good for him. Understanding the spot that he's put in, understanding the shoes he's not being asked to fill them, but you just can't help but think he's in Francisco Lindor's spot. Boy, this has got to be difficult. And he came through tonight, 3 for 4, and hits his first big league home run. Hopefully they got the ball back for him. And then Tylor Megill, again, the guy in the rotation that's probably the person that fans write off the quickest of, oh, if Kodai Senga comes back or Christian Scott's available, this is the guy that you pull out. Well, over the last 2 starts, he has been everything this team has needed him to be, and then some. And tonight was no different, and battled after a tough 3rd inning, saw him give up the lead, but he battled through that to limit the damage to 1, and then shut the door when the Mets gifted him the lead, said, I got you guys, don't worry. I'll put the team on my back and give you what I gave you in Toronto. So again, we've used the term a lot, but just a great night for the New York Mets. And you want to say it was a perfect night, all things considered, you can say that. Because in September, with the season on the line, seemingly every night it feels like it, with the magnitude, with the noise, I mean, the New York media is buzzing about what's going on at Citi Field and Flushing every night. You're checking the standings. They're checking the scoreboard during the game. The broadcasters showing it. They're giving updates. I mean, listen, I'll be the first person to raise my hand. I had the Mets game on one screen. I was watching Braves Reds on the other screen. The Diamondbacks game started. I had that game up as well. Like, there is just a different feel to scoreboard watching in September when a team is playing this good, playing this well, and understanding the moment, and not only understanding the moment, but meeting the moment. And they have done that the last two nights. And it was a statement tonight because, again, the Braves opened the door by blowing a lead in Cincinnati, and the Mets, keeping an eye on that, said, okay, we'll take advantage of that. Thank you very much. And they're going to open up a 2-game lead over the Braves in the National League wild card race. But that is going to do it for us here on tonight's Locked On Mets postcast. But don't worry, we have a series finale tomorrow to recap for you. In the meantime, head on over to the Locked On Mets podcast. You'll get Ryan Finkelstein's big picture reactions to the game tonight and looking ahead towards what is the remainder of this season for the New York Mets. So make sure you are locked in over there with Locked On Mets. Again, I will be back tomorrow to recap for a postcast the series finale against the Washington Nationals as the Mets go for a sweep, try to make it 3 in a row, and try to continue to put maximum pressure on everybody in the National League wildcard race. With just like 12 games to go and some big series coming up. A night like tonight is good. It's nice to sit back, relax, and enjoy one tonight because it's going to be pretty stressful here over the next couple of days and a week and a half with this season winding down. So in the meantime, subscribe, like the video, turn on the notification bell so you know when we go live for all of these postcasts. But I will talk to you all tomorrow. Let's go Mets.